Trick is not to free yourself from everything so that art, like a knight in shining armor, can fill you with great talent. Talent is either in you or it's not. It can't be taught. It can only be cultivated. This world is no prison. This world is a canvas. Use it, observe it, live it. But never forget, you're part of it. There's more courage in living on the fridge and abandoning straight world. More courage in being a poet, having conviction in heart, and not letting head take the wheel. Heart must always be in the driver's seat. Thank you.
So now's the part of the evening where you get to ask questions of Chris yourselves. If anybody has questions?
Anybody have a question?
What defines the modern beat for you?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of it, that's a question I struggle with, right? I think everybody does. I think a lot of it has to do with self-definition of it, right? People who say they're beat, but also you have to it's a hard thing because I've been thinking about it quite a lot. How is it different than what happened in the 40s and the 50s, right, or the 50s and the 60s? But the modern, I've met a lot of them, like people like P.W. Covington. That guy's beat. There's just so many people. I think it's about writing about those things about life that most people still don't write about, and talking about it honestly. That's just always been the beat tradition. But when modern beats, I think people that are doing it now are able to take that, what they learn from that, and kind of relate it into the new ways of doing things. But there's also that still exuberance of life. So I don't know if there is like a new and an old. I think it's just people still trying to live that same, or write in that same type of life. Write about honestly about the world we know, right? And sometimes that honesty is, can seem ugly to people, but I think the more you write about it, I think there's, even though in this world where everything's free, like you can have tons of stuff like Kim Kardashian on the cover of a magazine naked, that's still not what the beats are talking about. All that freedom is not really, it's about finding beauty in these things, like, a sunflower in a junkyard, those type of things that we still don't capture, I don't think. But I don't know if that answered the question, but I think it's still just following.
If you look at a poem and say, that's a great beat poem.
I think you can. The style is very much there. But there's so many different styles of it. There were so many beats in the beginning. There still are. But I think you can see and say that's a great, you can tell that's a beat poem. It's got to have the rhythm, it's got to have, the imagery, everything's in there. But to define what it looks like, there's several different things I think you look for. But also it has to be like, does the person consider themselves beat? Because if they don't consider themselves beat, then I don't think you can call it beat, right? But that's something that's still trying to answer. Yes.
The beats, of course, jazz and traveling were two big deals for the beats. They like to, kind of freewheel along, across the country and see what adventures they run into, all of that. And I'm kind of wondering about, like for example, in On the Road, Jack Kerouac, Sal Paradise, then, Dean Moriarty, who is Neil Cassidy, and his friends, they go to Mexico.
Yes.
And they wind up going all the way down to Mexico City in there, which I thought was kind of interesting. So these, the beats, they kind of like to get out there, going to Mexico even, And so I'm kind of wondering, what has your experience been when it comes to traveling and how that relates to your writing? Because travel is part of the beat tradition, and also jazz, and how that relates to your writing, or influences that have happened there for you.
I travel a lot. I have, the past few months has been the longest I think I've stood still. But over the summer, when I toured this book, we went from El Paso to Dallas to Houston and all those different scenes you meet out there. There's so many different writer scenes, but it does. I've got travel. I've got some road poems in here. because I spent a lot of time on the road. But I think one of the things we're talking about, like the new, is social media has changed everything dramatically. And in the old days, you had to go out there and drive to get your stuff out. Now you can post it on Facebook, and it's different. But I think you still need to travel. You still need to experience the scene, because poetry is about, it's more of the experience, the live type of reading. But yeah, it certainly does play a huge part. And the music, the music's always been there. Like I said, I started writing poetry because of punk rockers. So I was always around the music and listening to the rhythms of it, and trying to write out lyrics. But I always did it backwards. They always said I wrote the lyrics first, and then I didn't write the music. So I'm not a musician. But so I was always a poet. But jazz, I love jazz. But I think a lot of it's kind of come and gone folk music, and that's the thing. Bob Dylan really took it its own way.
Do you ever dabble with haikus?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Do
I
you
have.
follow any of the traditional rules, or you do Kerouac?
I tried.
Haiku.
I've tried using the traditional rules, but I ended up doing like what they call haikus or something like that, which are the I forget what they're called, but you know what I mean, the American versions. Because I've done this, like when I teach the haiku, I try to make them stay within the 575, but yeah, that's a tough
I mean
gig.
syllable count. I mean like seasonal reference.
Yeah, I know what you mean,
Capture
seasonal.
the moment.
Most people don't do haikus the proper way. Most people think what they're doing are haikus, but they're actually, I think what they're called, the ones that deal with emotion. There's a different version. Senru, thank you.
What are they called?
Senru.
Senru,
Senyru.
SCNYRU.
yes. But that's a really tough form. It's very tough.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I think learning form, and I teach it. I have them learn forms so that they understand, form before they can go off and do free verse, because free verse is, I had to learn form. But I think it's useful to learn rhyme and meter, because it teaches you, trains your ear, and it trains you how to work and really understand why every word is important in a poem. So, yeah.
I just have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned going to school, in school or outside of school, as far as literature or poetry. But how would you say, as a beginner trying to find a way, like you guys were saying with the imagery, that's probably the hardest thing to find as far as writing poetry or stories or even expressing them. It's just like, where do you find inspiration to be more creative with your imagery when you're writing? If, say, at this time of the day, my situations are like more Austin versus traveling, but I would say I travel through Austin quite a lot in that experience.
There's a lot of, you don't have to actually go across the country. There's a lot of beat poetry about cities, about living in the cities. San Francisco, a lot of their scene was about the city, right? But the imagery is, that's a tough thing, Can you say, the old cliche of a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? But if you use that image to, instead of, calling it, like a dark and stormy night, you can just say, using the word bleak or, shadowy, it actually gives you a different image, right? But if you use, like, you're talking about concrete images, let's see, people love colors, like red balloon would really work, or things like that, but I don't know, it's easier when you start thinking of something that makes you feel, and it usually brings up an image in your head, right? One of the techniques that I use with my students a lot is something called sketching, which is actually a Kerouac-inspired technique. And what I have them do is I have them record everything they see in straight description, no metaphor, no nothing. It's just exactly what they see, and just write it out. And that is the toughest thing for them to do in the beginning. Because once you do that and take out everything, you're trying to have any forced meaning on anything, you just kind of write it out exactly as you see, and you go back to it, you start to see that it starts to create its own meaning. And then you can start to see how you can use that. That's one of the best techniques that I've used for my students. Is just go out there and just try to not to make something mean something and just see what it actually does. And then go from there. So that's what I would do.
Where have you seen the most hunger or appreciation for poetry?
I don't know, it's kind of all over.
Who pays you? That's what I meant.
Who pays me?
No, not just that, but where do you get that audience where people are here to hear your poetry?
Oh man,
Or buy your books or whatever it may be. It's probably not Austin because you can't swing a day's cap without hitting a poet around here.
I usually find, I mean, like when I go and do readings, El Paso's a really great scene. El Paso and Dallas have been really good. But I mean, everywhere I've really gone has had that kind of a effect. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, how many books did I sell? Well, this is when we did the tour this summer, because I toured with a friend of mine. Like every stop that we did, like every tour that we did, whatever books we sold or whatever would pay for the next trip. And so that's mostly how we financed the whole thing, because nobody was really paying us to be there. Sometimes they'd throw us some money, but mostly we did it just to connect with these other poets. And but I don't know. I think their scenes are everywhere. It's just. You just kind of connect with the scene that's already happening. But El Paso, Albuquerque, LA, went out to LA. LA's got a very different scene, but theirs is a lot more, bar under the, they're like bars you have to go downstairs to get to. It's almost like a punk rock, old CBGB type of feel to them. But some of them buy, some of them don't. But certainly El Paso, Dallas are great buys. Houston. San Antonio, places like that, but I don't know. I mean, making money, I don't really make money. There is no money in. I mean, I always tell my students there's no money in poetry, but that's not why I do it. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But to go where there's an audience and appreciation to fund the next trip would be, wow.
well, we found them, and we always find people that are interested. Corpus Christi was a surprising place. When we got invited to do a reading in Corpus Christi, there's actually they're starved for it or something.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's places like that, which I mean, I'd never done a reading in Corpus Christi before. And I didn't even know they had anything, but yeah, we went there and they were really receptive.
Have you traveled much in Mexico? And if you
No, I have not.
You haven't traveled much there?
No, I was supposed to go to Veracruz this past September, but it didn't end up working out because it was like the first week of classes and there's no way I could miss this. Over there they do poetry festivals for like a week. It's like a whole week, and it starts like Monday through Sunday.
Wow.
And then you have to, and then when they asked me to be part of that, they wanted me to bring 30 poems to read. I'm like, 30? Like, jeez, what do I read yet? But they have like week-long things. It was the first week of school, and I couldn't get that week off. It was just impossible. But yeah, I've been invited to read, and I just I didn't get to go. But I'll do it next year for sure.
Just one last thing.
Very last
And has your experience with Mexico, any kind of experience that you had, has it affected your writing in any way?
Oh yeah, down in the valley, there's a lot of Mexican poets that are doing a lot of their readings on this side of the border now. They basically become refugees because of what they moved onto this side. So there's a lot more of Mexican type of poetry influence down there in the valley now. And I can name like 2 different people who hold really big readings. Raquel and Raquel Lopez does a really huge reading series down there. And I forget the other, Leticia Sandoval is another one. So there's a lot of mixture of that. But thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, thank you, Joe.
And don't forget there are Pete's books and Chris's books over there.